There's a sense of urgency in this town. That's what David Bowie said of New York City. He fell in love with this city ever since he came here in the 1970s and hung out with Andy Warhol and his crew. But then he came back after he married his wife Iman. And Iman was also a woman who loved New York City, and she convinced David Bowie to come back to this town. First, they moved down all the way at Central Park. But then in the early 2000s, they moved right here to 285 Lafayette Street in the heart of SoHo. In honor of the David Bowie exhibition that's happening in the Brooklyn Museum through mid-July with the exclusive Sennheiser audio experience, we're going to visit David Bowie's New York. First, let's go and take the subway. Alright, how did David Bowie create these very vivid characters such as the Thin White Duke and Aladdin Sane? Well, he was an avid reader. He consumed books like there was no tomorrow, and usually a huge wide variety of books, both popular Western books and books from the ancient East. And one of his favorite places to buy books was here at McNally Jackson in the neighborhood of Nolita and Mulberry Street and Prince. So David Bowie used to browse through this bookstore fairly frequently because he was such an avid reader. And looking at this right now, here's one of his favorite books, The Stranger by Albert Camus. It's partly the inspiration for the existential nature of the Thin White Duke. And he was such an avid reader that his son, Duncan Jones, is actually hosting a book club now to read top 100 favorite books of David Bowie. So check it out. After getting a bunch of inspiration from all the books and art that David consumed, he would come here to the Magic Shop to make his last two albums, The Next Day and Black Star. Every morning he would have his favorite coffee waiting. It was a double macchiato from La Colombe. And the very last album he made, Black Star, he made it in complete secrecy. So he would walk only a few blocks away from his home at 285 Lafayette, over here to 49 Crosby. And no one knew that he was making an album besides the band members and the producers. And it was because he chose to have zero publicity for this album. The entire album dealt with his own mortality, and also it was very ambitious in terms of sound. Personally, it's one of my favorite albums of all time, and coming here to where, in essence, the magic happened is magical in itself. But the important question is, where did David Bowie get his lunch? Let's go. During a long day of recording Black Star and The Next Day, a few blocks away at the Magic Shop, David Bowie used to come here for lunch. And he would grab this amazing sandwich. Let me show it to you right now. The grilled chicken sandwich with nice soft focaccia bread and tomatoes. Well, I can see why David Bowie fell in love with this. This is a very good sandwich. Oh my god. This is my new favorite sandwich.
But the film is a saddening bore, for she's lived it 10 times or more. She could spit in the eyes of fools as they ask her to focus on sailors fighting in the dance.
In 2015, David Bowie was diagnosed with liver cancer, and he knew that the end was near. So he really wanted to cross off one major thing from his bucket list. It was to make a stage play. He was always in love with theater. That's why his characters felt so real, so complete, like Ziggy Stardust and Aladdin Sane. So he decided to continue the story of one of his most iconic film characters, the man who fell to earth. So he decided to make the play Lazarus right here in the New York Theater Workshop. And his very last public appearance was during the opening reception of Lazarus on December 7th, 2015. David Bowie ended up dying a month later, in January. And it was a huge loss for the world because they lost a man that was filled with creativity, a man who made not only music and arts, but he also made theater. One of the favorite places David Bowie used to love hanging out in was Cafe Reggio, a historic coffee shop dating back from the 1920s in the Greenwich Village. And he would often buy himself a cappuccino, sit down, and just people watch. And almost surprisingly, no one spotted him because he said he could be invisible in this city. Unlike other cities around the world where people swarm major celebrities, here in New York, it's a different type of culture. If you see a celebrity, it's kind of an everyday occurrence, and also people don't swarm them. They just say hi, and that's pretty much it. So David Bowie felt that he could be comfortable here in New York City. But now let's go to the all-time favorite place that David Bowie enjoyed more than any place in the world. David Bowie's favorite place by far in the entire city was a place where he said that you can learn the entire emotional history of the city in one quick walk through Washington Square Park. He often came here early in the mornings before anyone would wake up to sit down in one of the benches and to see the city come alive. And it's a gorgeous place to really capture the city awakening and all the vibrancy starting to rumble throughout the day. Now that we've seen David Bowie's New York City, let's go to an exhibition that's running all the way through mid-July in the Brooklyn Museum with an immersive Sennheiser audio experience that has hundreds of pieces from the David Bowie archive. Let's take a look. Isn't this marvelous? This is the original costume from Life on Mars, which you can see yourself at the Brooklyn Museum with the very exclusive Sennheiser audio experience. This is really cool because the entire exhibit has different excerpts from his interviews and from his songs and other people's interviews. It's really an immersive experience. Come to the Brooklyn Museum all the way through mid-July, and thank you so much for watching. Keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. So the very last part of this exhibit is a full-on concert experience where Sennheiser makes this 360 audio experience where it completely envelops you entirely into this concert experience. Let's go, let's dance.